Rev up your engines!
Tyler Wallace says, Scotty, is an '08 Saab 9.3 worth buying for $300? It runs and drives. Well, what the heck? $300 is nothing. And if it runs and drives, go ahead. Just realize the Saab 9.3 was one of the cars that really drove Saab completely into bankruptcy. I've had customers in Houston that had them. They were kind of a weirdo niche car. Weirdly enough, a bunch of my customers here that had them were all architects. I guess it's kind of an architect thing. They liked oddball things, but even they ended up getting rid of them because the company went bankrupt. The parts cost a fortune. They're very expensive to repair. But heck, if it runs and it's $300, what the heck? I went to Boston a month ago and it cost me $500 to rent a car for 5 days. You got one for $300 if it still runs. What the heck? But as soon as something with an engine and tranny goes, with just junk the thing. Don't put any money in and fix it. That'd be stupid. It's not worth putting money into those things when they're that age and being a Saab, a company that's bankrupt for many good reasons. Gaming Rooster says, what do you think about a BMW 4 Series Coupe brand new? Well, if you have an endless supply of money and you don't care about money, go ahead and buy one. They're fun to drive. Their values drop like a stone. I was just pricing those things the other day, and it turns out in the first 3 years, they lose like 44.4% of their value. So that shows you that, they're overpriced. They don't have their value because they cost a lot of money to fix. As they break down, they are fun to drive. But if you value your money, if you really want to get one of those, lease it. Then you lose less money. If you're really nuts about it, lease it. Have some fun with it for 2-3 years. Lease the thing, because you're going to lose more money buying it and sell it when it's 3 years old than you're going to just lease it. So go ahead and lease one if you really like them. You see how much money you lose. You know what the monthly payment is. You know exactly what you're going to lose. There's going to be no surprises for repairs because it's a new car you lease it. It's under warranty. You're not responsible for the repairs. Gables here says, Scotty, I bought an 11 Infiniti G25X for $9,000. It's 100,000 miles with no issues. Goodbye? No, I would say goodbye. I always warn people, you don't want to buy Infinitis. That thing's 9 years old. It's got 100,000 miles. You don't want to buy them when they're 10 years old and have over 100,000 miles. They generally turn into endless money pits. Now, you paid $9,000. If you looked at what the list price was, it was a whole bunch more from that. So at least the only thing you have to lose is $9,000. Now, if you baby it, maybe you won't have any problems for them. Maybe you'll be the lucky one. But I see catalytic converters, automatic transmissions going out, engines blowing head gaskets on those things as they age. So if you do like the car, my advice, use it for a weekend, run around, fun car. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't have too many problems. But if you have the possibility, buy like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla for your work car, to put all the miles on that and to keep the Infiniti as a toy. And that might be okay then. Colin F. says, Scotty, I had an '03 Highlander. After not driving it a while, at idle, it lost power, several lights came on, and the steering went out. Turned it off, and it was suddenly okay. Okay, what you want to check on that is the simplest thing on the planet. Have your battery load tested. Places like AutoZone do it. Any good mechanic can do it in 2 minutes. If your battery's getting weak, everything won't work right, just a bad battery. And while you're at it, also have the alternator tested. Because if your alternator isn't charging the battery, you'll have the same thing. And you said you turned it off, then turned it back on again, and it started working. It's got to be something electronic. Because the only thing that changes by shutting the car off, turning it back on again, is the electronics in the computer system. So if you have a car that's running like crap, you shut it off, turn it on, and it runs perfect again, you got some kind of electrical problem, and start looking at that first. AC Widge says, do I need to change a water pump at 100,000 miles if I have a car with a timing chain? Thanks. You don't just go out and change one, because here is the problem. You have to understand your engine exact design. Now, let's say you got one of those older Nissans that has a metal timing chain, but that metal chain operates the water pump. I definitely change it now, because if it breaks, it's an interference engine, the timing chain will fly off, pistons will hit, the valves will be goodbye engine. But on the other hand, if you've got an engine that's got a timing chain and the water pump just runs on the outside of the engine off a fan belt, if it's not leaking, it works fine, I wouldn't even bother. More important is to change your coolant. Let's say you got coolant that's good for 4 years or 100,000 miles. Change it every 4 years or 100,000 miles. That keeps the water pump from getting corroded and wearing out inside. And if you do that and you got a well-built car, I've seen some Japanese cars with 200,000 miles still have the original water pump and it works fine. It's up to you and your engine design. Learn as much as you can about your particular engine design first. Connor Gallego says, Scotty, what do you think of a Polaris slingshot? Well, they're fun toys. Those 3-wheel job, 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back, and they're fun. fun toys. There's a woman that lives down the street from me that souped one all up, puts out 300 something horsepower. She loves driving around. Now I realize you're going to get wet in the rain just like a motorcycle, but you don't have to worry about them tipping over in the rain and sliding over. They're kind of fun toys, and they're cheap enough, especially used, that they can be fun. I did a thing years ago on the Canadian guy who had the expensive three-wheel drive ones, and they started at $80,000 with the BMW engine in them, but these Polarises, they're 20-something grand. I've seen people get decent used ones for 5 or 6, and they got Chevy engines in them, so the parts aren't exotic. You can get parts for them. It's not that hard to get parts for them, and they're kind of fun toys for people to mess around with. If you want a vehicle like that, you know, they're not bad at all. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.